You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Andrew the Rock Lobster Giovinazzi from OptionFit.com. Old trading walks into a bar. New trading raises it. That's Tasty Trade. Keep focused with news feeds that matter. See opportunity differently in analysis mode. Chart your heart out with over 300 indicators. Plus, you can get low pricing, lots of education, and a support team that really gets how traders trade. It's no wonder Investopedia named Tasty Trade the best broker for options in 2024. Genius loves company. Go to tastytrade.com/podcasts and see for yourself. Tasty Trade Incorporated is a registered broker-dealer and member of FINRA, NFA, and SIPC. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back. It is time to commence the final trading month of the year. Yeah, wild to say that out loud. In many ways, this year kind of flew by. It's been quite tumultuous, to say the least. My name, of course, is Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as on the network. Hope you all had an awesome Thanksgiving. And if you're not in the U.S., hope you just had a great week last week. We were, of course, dark for Thursday and Friday, but we're back now, ready and raring to go. And joining me, they're raring to dive into some trivia challenges this week. None other than the uncleest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, as well as by the rockingest of lobsters, Mr. Andrew Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. I introduce them now because they are putting on their mouthpieces. They are getting ready to throw body blows because it's Monday. It is time to kick off another 80s Trivia Challenge. Here we go. All right. I have in my hot little hands the previously selected card. I wave it. I wave it for the screen. Quick, take a screen grab. Too late. You missed your chance. All right. Uncle Mike, as still our reigning loser, though perhaps he can turn it around before the end of the year. You've been mostly sticking with the sports and leisure. It hasn't exactly served you well, but lately you've made some surprise turnarounds out there, carved out a few points out there. I think last week you had Kansas City Chiefs losing the first Super Bowl. You had a couple other pulls out there. So which way are we going this week, sir?
Coming with what brought me.
You come into
sports
the dance.
And leisure.
You come into the dance with sports and leisure. You perhaps shall go out, or perhaps you shall reign supreme again. We shall find out. All right,
He is 2-0.
Yeah, he's turning around. I think, heading into turkey season, it kind of wakes Uncle Mike up a little bit. Turkey puts everybody else to sleep. It wakes up Uncle Mike. All right, here we go. Get your hands on your buzzers, gentlemen. Where is the annual World Series of Poker held?
Buzz.
I see Tosaw buzzing first. So, Uncle Mike, go for it, sir.
Las Vegas.
Yes, you are correct.
He beat me to the buzz.
You know, that one back in the 80s was not as common knowledge as it is today. Now everybody can watch, the poker shows and everything else. They all know that. But back in the 80s, I'm guessing most people didn't even know there was a World Series of poker. All right.
As soon as I heard World Series, I just should have hit the buzz. like there's only one World Series, or there's the World Series of poker. Anyway, Tosaw's making a comeback. Oh my gosh!
Now the ethical thing for Longo to do, if you did, he'd have to stop asking the question right there on the spot, though.
He usually does.
Not if you buzz. He panders to you, I think.
You have to take your L's now. You have to just take them without umbrage.
I know he's winning. He's winning, and he's still got umbrage.
You just can't make some people happy. It's a problem with society today.
Three wins in a row, and
I'm happy.
3 wins in a row, and he's as ornery as ever, listeners. So, what does it take to cheer this guy up? Maybe a little bit of market action. Let's find out as we head on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the trading block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the trading block, the portion of the show where we break down what the heck is trading out there. What's going on as we kick off our first trading session of the final month of the year. First, before we get there, let's go back a little bit. We were off for the second half of the week last week, and we did see some surprising market action. On Wednesday, we saw folks getting the bit in their teeth to the upside. The bulls apparently liking who the rumors are for who Trump is going to appoint for his Fed chairman, because surprise, surprise, they're probably going to cut rates. So hearing that, of course, hearing some news out of one of the current Fed governors also saying maybe we're due for rate cuts, all that kind of combining last week with some also shortened stub sessions like on Friday to combine for gains and actually turning the markets slightly green for the month there on November after a lot of red in the earlier session. So go figure. We go away for a couple of sessions and, Uncle Mike and his cabal kind of come out of hiding and they get out of control. Now we're back in session on the show here, listeners. Seems like the Bears have it back in hand a little bit, but only ever so slightly. This is one of those days that could turn green on a dime, or we could turn seriously red on a dime, or we could just kind of trudge around here. Right now, S&P off a little over 0.15%, NASDAQ off about 0.1%, Dow off about 0.4%. So giving back some of those lofty gains they got towards the latter half of the week last week when we weren't around to stop them. I'm just kidding. We don't hate the bulls out there. We got a big bull on the show. Uncle Mike, VIX hanging out at 16.75. If that sounds a lot lower than when it was on the show the last time we got here together a week ago, that's because it is. It's exactly 4 handles below where we were. We were at 20.75 on the Monday show a week ago. So go figure. A lot of green in the latter half of the week last week. Translates to a lot of red on the vol screen. So if you had a little SVIX in your back pocket last week, then you're looking pretty good. Or maybe some of those VIX puts we were talking about for a while. Pick your strike. These 18s are really popular. Those are looking a lot better. Pick your strike on the VIX downside, with the exception of 15. We all know we're not getting there. All those puts looking good. VVIX at a 92, down 14 points. Man, we go away for a couple of shows, and they just smoke the heck out of vol. 92, down 14 points from where we were this time last week. So this is starting to shape up like kind of a typical December. They come for vol. We get kind of a gentle malaise drift to the upside in the markets. But again, we all know this year is anything but typical. So, and we've been talking for a while on shows like Vol Views that maybe there are a few interesting wrinkles, a few shoes to drop with the Fed and everything else in December that could keep vol a little more elevated than usual this time of year. So a lot of things yet to play out. But first, we go out to the land of our winner for this week. Winner, now, I think, was it 3 weeks in a row? At least 2. Uncle Mike on a bit of a tear. You'd never know it from his grumpy and salty tone on the show here, listeners, accusing me of all sorts of skullduggery, even though he's winning. You don't want to hear him when he's losing, listeners. He's just insufferable. But I digress. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir. What is catching your eye on a not quite Uncle Day in the markets, but an Uncle Mike Day, I should say, in trivia?
Well, I think that, we just have to keep in mind, folks, that Mark and Andrew, they're old school Chicago guys. So, like, you guys have heard about Chicago politics and how corrupt that can be. Mark and Andrew, they have connections. They're very deeply connected in Chicago politics, and I've seen them coming out of series. And that's the bar that's in the Board of Trade building. And they were looking around. They had some shady stuff going on. So I'm not convinced this is all on the up and up. It's like Chicago politicians, the old school Chicago market makers. You never know with these guys. So you just got to keep Mark and Andrew on their toes in case there could be some skullduggery happening.
We are a dubious bunch.
No doubt. Now, with that being said, in terms of the market, if you just turned on the market at around like maybe 8:45 Chicago time and watched it till now, it's not doing that bad. We're up 40 points on the day if we look at that. But it definitely had a little bit of a gap down, but buyers have come in. We have not reached the close of yesterday as of yet. So the S&P is still down 9 points on the day, but that's obviously not anything of any major significance by any means. Overall, a lot of the stocks that I'm looking at, for the most part, we're fairly flat on the day. So I really don't have a lot of exciting news at this stage of where we are with any individual stocks, but that's not to say that there's not exciting news. Silver, good gosh. When is that thing ever going to stop? I was definitely wrong to pick the puts in silver for 2026. If I had to have a gun to my head and pick one, that's for sure. Silver's up almost 4% on the day with SLV trading over the 53 mark again. Gold's up 0.5% on the day as well. The other thing to take a look at that I think is of interest is that we're actually getting some sellers in the bond space. Looking at IEF, the treasury that tracks the 7 to 10 year treasuries, that is down roughly 0.5% on the day. And then looking at TLT, I know a lot of our listeners like to trade TLT, that's down over 1% on the day. So when we have things like that happening, rates will increase. And so that's something that we need to keep an eye on. I think that rates are going to be one of the big topics for 2026. I had said it that 2025 I felt was the year of the collar. Made a lot of sense to take a look at. And I think 2026, I don't know which way you want to play it. That's a topic for another day. But I think the topic for 2026 is that's going to be the year of the interest rate in one way, shape, or form. So with that, looking at everything that's going on today, markets are relatively flat, but they have not been. But they are now, and that's what I'm seeing.
Can we not just be done with the Fed for 5 minutes? How long have we been saying now? Can we move to a post-Fed market? Can we move to a post-Fed market? And here we are, right back in the middle of it.
It's never going to end.
I suppose. I mean, this rally on the heels of
I'm with you, but I don't think it ever is going to end.
We have priced in so many Fed rate cuts already that have not materialized. And we have rallied strong off that for years. And now just the rumors, the whisper of yet another one, which is still behind. How many did they predict? And yet they haven't given to. And we're rallying again on the whisper of that. I mean, the notion that we're rallying now off Fed rate cuts seems kind of preposterous to me. But hey, who am I to second guess the bulls out there? We got to be rallying off something else, which is mostly more buyers than sellers these days, I think, listeners out there. So otherwise, all the things that dragged it down last week and last month, the AI concerns, valuation concerns, very real concerns with the market don't seem to have changed. But nonetheless, we got maybe a little bit of a Fed certainty. That number's been, if you've been watching the Fed Watch, listeners, that number's been whipsawing around more than maybe I've ever seen it over the last couple of weeks, down to somewhere close to 30%, now up to close to 90%. But there needs to be options on the Fed Watch vol. Just in and of itself. I know it's obviously derived from the treasury prices. You could trade those, but just the Fed Watch itself is such a highly volatile thing right now that would certainly be interesting. Mr. Rock Lobster, what are your thoughts on everything we're seeing out there in the markets today, sir? And also, if you have any thoughts on what happened at the end of the last week when we were dark, have at it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's the threads that we have had this year. What's amazing, the threads we started the year with and what we're ending the year with are The only thread that probably is consistent is AI capital spending is still pretty strong. So that's the consistent thread. At the beginning, we had, I have to say, I bought into it. I'm going to say I bought into it. I bought into the fact that Doge and the administration would actually try to cut government spending. And I will never, ever fall for that ruse.
Sucker! I bought
however,
into it
too. They did identify waste. They've identified fraud. Doge is still going on in some way, shape, or form. And my guess is we have probably frauded and wasted our way to our national deficit if this is only 1 year. So for the previous 2025, that's probably how we got in the situation we're in. Eventually, one would hope we would have, Trump is trying. He said he tried, but Biden, I guess, said he tried, but I don't really believe that either. And Trump tried before, then COVID kind of blew it out of the water. And Obama, everything just ballooned. And then before him, everything ballooned. George W. Bush. So it's certainly not one party or the other. They seem to be in the cahoots. So got revenues for the government up huge, up 20%, yet we still spend too much money. And the bond market is probably down today on the October news on government spending. So yeah, will next year be the year of the inflation rate again? I hate to say it. Actually, I don't hate to say it because I agree with Tosaw on the market on a lot of things. But yeah, it's probably we're going to be stuck with this crap again until the knuckleheads get spending under control. The good news is we still have the best system. It still works pretty good because mostly everybody's on their own. So those are the positive things. Businesses still grow. Businesses start relatively easy in the U.S. Small businesses, a lot of jobs come from there. All of these things are all positive. Option Pit small business having had its best Cyber or Black Friday ever. So by leaps and bounds. So there's lots of positive things. And since the government spends so much money now, their activity can overshadow all of the positive business investment that goes on everywhere else. So I think that's kind of what we got as far as this. And it's the problem as well is this is a very binary switch for traders. Like government, blowing it somehow, screwing up, gets very expensive. Like in my time, two major events. We had the Great Financial Crisis, right? Which again, probably largely caused by the government, exacerbated by Wall Street. And then we also had the savings and loan crisis. We had basically free insurance for savings and loans. And then Wall Street went around and commoditized all that again. They're like, hey, we got free money. Let's jack up the business. So it's a hit. None of this has changed. Nothing's new. So on the positive side, we have had probably the best earnings year in history for companies. And that's why stocks are ultimately going up. I would say today if we can turn green today would be significant because today is a very down day for Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin has become a risk on trade and like traders get by it. We have a down day for Bitcoin down 5%, but stocks are up. I think that's that is a good sign going into yet again another Mark Longo Fed rate meeting on the 10th. So that's where things stack up.
Let's see where things stack up from an overall options market perspective. Shall we, listeners? Let's kick it off as we like to do in the land of vol. Are we kicking off this final trading month of the year with some hot VIX action? The answer was no, but I shouldn't say no. 467 is actually decently impressive volume for December. Usually this time of year, we're hanging out probably 650 on the ADV, maybe lower, or starting to trend in that direction. So putting up 467 normally this time of year would be like, wow, banger volume. But you know what? We're not in that mode right now. We're in VIX, just ticked below 1 million ADV again, 996. So we're still right in that ballpark. So when VIX is averaging 1 million contracts a day, I've said it before. First off, you got to pay attention to the markets. Things are getting a little wild when VIX is averaging 1 million contracts a day. And then B, so 467 in that light, close to halfway to that ADV. So I shouldn't be so dismissive. Yet I am. So the hot option out there, by the way, speaking of dismissive, maybe you'll dismiss this. Maybe you'll love it. Let's see what our audience has to say here, because the hot option out there today is certainly one that will divide folks. The hot option in VIX land today, 52,000 of the March 85s. Yes, you heard me correct. The March 85s trading for 38 cents. That is all open and flow, if you're wondering. Someone's not closing the March 85. So we're getting to that time of year, listeners, the fun upside. Average price for those, again, 38 cents. So they ain't giving them away. It's not like you get them for a nickel or anything like that. 38 cents. So we put it to you folks. At that price, you want to buy them straight up? You want to sell them straight up? Or would you rather buy them or sell them in a vertical? This just went live a few minutes ago. So the early blush, our audience wants to just buy them straight up. They say 38 cents. Thank you. Yes, please. And then 25, feeling it a little bit. They're saying, I don't mind selling those bad boys for 38 cents out there. Interesting stuff. We did have Dr. VIX on VolViews a few weeks ago, speculating that maybe some of these wild upside prints are the new form of stress tests going on in the market. Check out Volatility Views if you want the full discussion on that topic, listeners. We'll do a quick top 5 in VIX land since we're here. Number 2 was a distant number 2, 31,000 of our old pals. Yes, the D's 18 puts. These are just the hot option these days. $1.11. So again, if you bought them when we were talking about them on VolViews or other times a week and a half ago, they were 60 odd cents, 65 cents, somewhere in that ballpark. So you're talking nearly a 2Xer on those puts out there. Number 3, I should say, 27,000 of the D's 19 puts. Those going up for $1.85. Number 4, 25,000 of the 17 puts for 54 cents. And then going back to the upside, number 5, 18,000 of the 24 calls. Average price for those, about 55 cents. So maybe if you think we're going to have a little bit of dust up involved, this sell-off's overdone, maybe you like those 24s, 18,000 of them going up today. So some folks must like them. SPY, number 2 here on our list, coming in a little over 6 million already, 6.15 million. So SPY ain't messing about. The ADV is 10.3 million, definitely on track for that. Only got to put up a little over 4 million contracts the second half of the session. Can we do it? The S, 2.5 million, the ADV, 4.5 million. That's kind of back to somewhat more normal volume for the S, which is kind of interesting. We used to see the S around this time of the show, 2.25. So 2.5, slightly heavy. Remains to be seen if they could put that other 2 million on by the second half of the session. IWM 1.15 million, the ADV about almost 2 million. So little ways to go out there in small caps. They've been hot of late. And then the Qs 3.55 million, the ADV about 5.7 million. So the Qs, small caps, everything's been really hot of late. Coming in a little bit lighter today, but we'll see. The second half of the session could bring the heat yet again. By the way, you might be thinking today, oh, hot day. There's going to be a lot of volume out there lighting up the tape. And unfortunately, doesn't quite cost you what you might expect to break into the top 10. In fact, I'm going to re-rack it right now just to make sure we get up to the minute numbers here, listen. I don't want to shortchange anyone. And it has changed by a whopping 3,000. All right, kicking us off at number 10 today. It is unfortunately not a banger day. It is Meta putting up 240,000 contracts. So again, 240. Again, we're technically in December now, so that is kind of seasonally appropriate volume. But lately what we've been seeing, we haven't been below 350 in a while. So we've been up north of almost 450 recently. So 240 to break into the top 10. That's kind of light. That gets us to our old pal Meta. Giving up some of the ghosts today, off about 1%, about 6 1/3, trading 641.60 right now. That said, they did get down to about 637 3/4 earlier this morning. So not looking as red as they did earlier today. Number 9, our old pal Alphabet Class A. I got a feeling we're going to be hearing about them a lot more. We certainly have been ever since they got touched with the old Buffett stick. A Class A, 317 1/4, off nearly $3 or about 1% today. Good for number 9, 254 on the tape. Number 8, Uncle Mike's beloved, dearly beloved Palantir. 168.5, kind of unched today, which is interesting for them. They got as low as 163.12, so they have rallied over $5 from their nadir on the day, which sounds like Palantir. Putting up only 260,000 contracts, so again, kind of light volume for them. Number 7, Intel, 320 on the tape, trading 40 and a quarter, off about 30 odd cents, or about 0.75% right now. Intel back on the docket, which is kind of interesting. Number 7, 320 for good old INTC. Number 6, AMD. They've been kind of getting taken to the woodshed a little bit of late. Coming back to life a little bit today, up about $2, trading 219.5, nearly 1%. Good for number 6, 327 on the tape for them. Number 5, keeping it in the A-Tech names, the Amazonians, 235, exactly. Up 1 3/4, or about 0.75%. They got as low as 232 and a quarter today, so bouncing off their lows today as well. Number 5, the Amazonians, 388. We're at number 5. We're not even north of 400K listeners, so going to be kind of a light day, at least for right now. That's how it's shaping up. Again, if you love A-Tech names, we got you. Number 4, Apple, the fruit company, 418 on the tape for number 4. Stock is trading 280 in the third, up about 1 3/4%. That is a new, just ticked again, 280.62. That is a new 52-week high. That's a new all-time high for the fruit company out there. We were talking about 280s on the hot options report last week, so some folks were leaning on this 280 level, and we got here this week, so you might have been off a week if you were buying them last week. Number 3, a lot of people are focusing on this one right now. It's the monster. Not looking so monstrous these days. 161 and a quarter, off nearly $16, or about 9%. A good old MSTR listeners. Obviously, Bitcoin coming under pressure. If you want to go deeper on all that action, we'll be joined by our good buddy, Mr. Greg. He's so fired up, he wants to come on crypto pretty much every week for the rest of the year. So probably be talking to Greg a lot over the rest of the year out here. So if you want some insight into the vol and the skew and how you should be trading these things, stay tuned for the crypto rundown. Coming up a little bit after this show, as we keep on going to number 2, it's Tesla. 429 and a third, off about 85 cents. So that's kind of a rounding error for Tesla. They were as low as 425.29. So far at least, not the most wild day, even though they did get up to 433 to the upside. So if you take the full range, it sounds a little bit more like the Tesla we've come to know and or love. Tesla number 2, 980 on the tape. That means the big dog once again, Nvidia, 1.58 million. So kind of light volume for them as well. It's 179.44, up 244, about 1 3/3% out there for the big dog, Mr. Nvidia. On the earnings front, there are still some names popping off this week coming out of the holiday doldrums. We have Marvell on Tuesday. We got Uncle Mike's shopping destination, Dollar Tree, on Wednesday. Oh, also Five Below. He only goes there if it's a really special occasion, though. $5. It's kind of pricey for Uncle Mike. And then we've got Macy's, also on the higher end of the retail spectrum. Then we've got Salesforce and Snowflakes. That'll be interesting, the 2 S's. Snowflake kind of blowing it out last quarter. We'll see what happens this time. Kroger on Thursday, and then the other side of the Dollar's chain, it's Dollar General, as well as Ulta Beauty on Thursday. Friday, Victoria's Secret out there, listeners. If you want some hot numbers out here, we've got Marvell popping off again tomorrow. They were at $89.40 when we kicked off the show. They're pricing in $10.18. In the past, they moved $11.08. So a little bit of a deal, perhaps, on Marvell Vol, if you are so inclined. Going out to Uncle Mike Land on the third. Dollar Tree, 110.81 is where they were trading. They were pricing in $9.29. In the past, they moved $9.42. So not much daylight there on Dollar Tree. Macy's, same day, 22 1/3 is where they were trading. They were pricing in 2 1/4. In the past, they moved $1.70. So interesting. Almost 60 cents worth of extra juice piling in on top there in Macy's. Is that warranted? We shall see. Our old pal CRM, 230.5 on, this is on the third after the bell. They're pricing in $16.5. In the past, they moved about $16. So fully 50 cents more on top. Five Below, 164.89. They were pricing in $15.12. Oh, this is interesting. In the past, they moved $10.93. So Five Below is pricing in a fair amount of extra juice, which is kind of interesting because we're not seeing that on the Dollar Tree side. And usually they kind of trade in a little bit of lockstep. And then we got our old pal Snowflake, 251 1/4. They were pricing in $24.32. In the past, they've moved $33.09. You know, Snowflake, this is kind of a weird one. They could be kind of quiet for a while. Then they have a blowout quarter in one direction or the other. This could be a frame of reference thing where maybe we go back 12 quarters, and one of those quarters, really a couple of those quarters, obviously, towards the end of that line really had some blowout numbers. That could be giving us a distorted view of their past movements. But they had a hot quarter last time. Can they do it again? We shall see. Let's also go out here on Dollar General as well. The fourth before the bell, 109.5 is where they were trading. They were pricing in $8.58. In the past, they moved 10 and a quarter. So juice on a deal over there at Dollar General. And if you want the beauty as well, because who doesn't? Let's go to Ulta after the bell on the fourth, 538.83. They're pricing in $41.80. That's a rich straddle for Ulta. In the past, they've moved 36.65. So that's a fair amount of extra juice, listeners. $5 and change. Is that warranted? Leave it up to you, the Ulta traders out there, to decide. If you want to see more for yourselves, you know where to go. Hit the website. By the way, the season hanging out 109% right now. That is still above our long-term average of 102%. Again, the website is your place for all of that fun stuff, because it's time for the Rock Lobster and I to delve into some fun stuff. It is time for the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody. Let's get weird. Let's get wild. Let's kick off the Odd Block. Let's go back to good old Fort Knox. Ticker symbol Knox, KNX. Of course, it's actually not Knox. It is Knight Swift Transportation Holdings. We just call them good old Fort Knox here on the network, because why not? Trading 47.50, up $1.70, or about 3.75%. So having a hot day out there in the world of transportation holdings. Let's go on the year, though. Not been the hottest of years. They're still off about $11 or 18, almost 19%. Obviously, today's move helping to offset that somewhat. Their low for the year came, guess when? It was in April, listeners, 36.70. So they have since rallied quite a bit from that low. They did retest those lows back in early October, though, about 38 and change. So if you had them just from October, you had a nice little run. In fact, they were down to about $41 just a few weeks ago in November. So they've had a few fits and starts to the upside. They keep trying to rally, then something comes along to cut their legs out from under them, and they rally again, and so on and so forth. If this name sounds familiar to you, listeners, you probably heard us talk about it on this show, or you're hanging out in the Pro, because we did talk about it back at the beginning of this year on the Options Oddity show on the January 30th show. We talked about somebody coming in and scooping some upside to the tune of the Feb 62 halves. They bought 3,000 for 35 cents, lifting the offer. They got a market of a dime at 35 cents. The stock at the time was $57.84, so a wee bit higher than it is right now, almost exactly $10. The stock ended up going out on expiration, listeners, $52.13. These calls were all still open, so unfortunately they dropped around $108,000 on that trade. I bring that up, listeners, because what we're seeing right now is eerily reminiscent of that trade we saw almost a year ago. Somebody's going back to Fort Knox today, KNX, and said, once again, Feb upside, how is it? This time, though, the Feb 50s. So the stock was about $47. So obviously the stock about 10 handles lower. So you're going to go 10 handles lower, or a little, actually 12 and a half handles lower in your strike to compensate. This time they got a bit of a meteor market. They got 2 1/4 at $2.40. So interesting market out there. A little bit juicier, obviously. The last time it was 29.5 vol. This time about a 40 vol. So things get a little pricier in Knox, which is kind of interesting. Let's see. They ended up saying we will pay $2.40 about 2,500 times. So exact same expiration month, 1 year later. Similar strike selection, similar duration, everything, similar size. Everything else about it is very similar, Mr. Rock Lobster, to the trade we talked about a year ago. That one did not work out. What are your thoughts on good old Knox, a.k.a. Knight Swift Transportation Holdings, and somebody once again scooping, this time, some pricier calls to the upside, sir?
Well, the first thing, they're buying duration, which I think is always a better thing if you're a call buyer. especially in a transportation company. I mean, you have to think about it. Like, what kind of news makes a transportation company fly? So I would say that is it could be an indirect play on energy prices coming down. Let's say oil prices coming down, better for energy companies. I know they hedge to a pretty decent degree there. It is up $1.65 today. So I'm just saying, you buy those Fed 50s, and I think they're already up on the day on them, I believe. So we know, 240, and they're 250 bids. So that passes the first, I believe, the option insider, the odd block test. When you're up the first day when you buy calls, always a good sign. And usually you're jumping on something where there could be some positive news. So I have to say, I don't think the calls are very expensive given the duration. So not a bad trade. The stock was $62, and right now it is just hovering around its lows. So I would say not low, but it's in the bottom third of the range for the last year. So I don't think it's a bad purchase. It pays a dividend, and they increased the dividend last year. So I'd say not a bad purchase. This is a great use of buying a call in lieu of buying stock.
Rock Lobster liking him. He thinks maybe he wants to nibble on a little bit of the upside. You like these? Good old Night Swift listeners. These are the 50s for $2.40. Maybe you like these bad boys. As we keep on rolling to this next name, this is the name we haven't talked about in a while either. For obvious reasons, this is iRobot. Maybe you're seeing this name on your screens a lot right now. It is Black Friday, Cyber Monday, a lot of deals going around on various household products like Roombas. They are, of course, the maker of Roomba. One of the reasons we haven't talked about them for a while is that the stock is $1.77. So the stock kind of is the option at this point. It's up 20 cents today, though, or about 12%. So a nice little pop. Got as high as $2.52 today. So maybe feeling that Cyber Monday love. Either way, kind of interesting. Kind of interesting out here. On the year, I don't need me to tell you it's been kind of a rough year. $8.15 a year ago is where they were trading. So they're up about $6.50 or 78% on the year. And they're high, actually. They kicked off the year on January 6th. Somehow they rallied to $13.06. So if you bought it there, whew, you're feeling it. You're feeling it on the year, listeners. That's a painful one out there. I feel for you out there. Let's see what somebody feels out here. By the way, if you're saying, wasn't something going on with them? Didn't they get taken over a few years ago? Well, it did. They were tempted to. Amazon actually agreed to buy them back in 2022, August of 2022, for a cash deal. Would have valued the stock at somewhere around, I think, in the $50 per share level, somewhere around there, maybe higher, maybe in 60. I think like high 50s, low 60s, which looks great right now. And the stock's $1.70. Ended up falling apart in the beginning of 2024. The EU blocked it over antitrust concerns out there. So that deal fell up. Yeah, it was a $61 per share takeover by Amazon. Man, that looks pretty good now. And the stock's $1.70. You're seeing all kinds of headlines now about can the stock continue as a going concern going forward. So interesting stuff out here. Not stopping folks from maybe rolling the bones to the upside, though, this week. They came in this morning. They said, iRobot, these twos, how are they? They got 25 at 30. They said, I will pay 29 cents, good sir, on split. So actually pretty much 30 cents. 3,000 times. The stock was $1.83. I already just told you the stock rallied to $2.50, so they probably had an opportunity to maybe get out of these bad boys. I'll have to go look and see. Maybe they made a one-day trade and they're happy with it. They've done a total of nearly 11,000 on the day, so there is a good chance that they maybe already have exited these out here. Again, actually, total of 12,000 of these have traded now, so kind of hard to tell. They traded as high, looks like at least 50 cents. I see 400 going up for 50 cents, so hopefully this person bought them for about 30, bailed for 50 cents, and they're living to fight another day. That said, Mr. Rock Lobster, do you have a Roomba? And then B, what do you think of these D2s for 30 cents, sir?
I do not have a Roomba, and you're right. It is like hard sledding here for this stock. I guess Amazon wanted another product in everybody's house that talked to people from your vacuum cleaner talks to you when it shuts off. Buy something from Amazon Prime. So yeah, this used to be quite a profitable company, but now it's just kind of really having trouble. So I think the Ds2s are a pretty good shot. It's just are they going to get anything out of it? That's the question. I don't think it's a bad trade, but it's pretty speculative, and because you're not betting on earnings, so maybe maybe you get some kind of acquisition or something. But I mean, ultimately, really, you want to buy the Ds2s for 40 cents. You're paying 300 vol. I guess it could work. It's just not my favorite trade. Not my favorite trade.
Not your favorite indeed. Let's get out of here. Let's go back to the Bath and Body Works listeners. Ticker symbol BBWI. Trading 19.19 today, up about $1.80 or about 10.25%. So a nice little day for BBWI. Looks like maybe an insider coming in to buy a bunch of, or maybe it just hit multi-year lows. Someone thought it was cheap, or more buyers than sellers. Either way, popping hard today. On the year, though, they got a long way to go. They were trading nearly $40 a year ago, so they're off about 18 1/3, or nearly 50% on the year. They had a few bright spots. They rallied right around Valentine's Day, like a lot of names did, up to the high for the year of 41, almost $42, and then they just fell out of bed the rest of the year. They were $21 back on November 18th, and they really took a hit. They sold off to 14 1/4 on November 21st. So from that perspective, glass half full, they have rallied pretty hard from about 14 1/4, obviously up to about 19, almost 19 1/4 right now. So nearly $5 to the upside. So not a bad little bounce out there. It looks like maybe somebody thinks there's more to come. We saw there's a whole bunch of options paper going up out here today. A lot of it has OI attached to it, though, so kind of hard to read into the tea leaves. But this one was a straight-up opener. We got 4,000 of the Ds19s going up. This market is just horrific. 35 cents at 80 with the stock $18.42. I said, you know what, good sir, I will pay 80 cents 4,000 times. No earnings in this bad boy. Earnings are on February 26th, so you're just straight rolling the bones on 80-cent calls. That said, the stock was $18.42, so it's popped nearly 80 cents, so that's looking good in their favor, even though they did pay a 65 vol for these bad boys. Mr. Rock Lobster lifting the offer for 80 cents on the Ds19s in Bath and Body Works, a stock that has otherwise been taken to the woodshed. What say you, sir?
Bed, Bath, and Body Works. What is that? I didn't even know that company was still around. So they paid 80 cents for these on a very wide market, and let's see here. Oh, WI. All right. I mean, it again, it's like, why is that stock up so much? Rises 8% on earnings last week. I guess a lot of the retailers have been doing well. I think this is just kind of like a quickie speculation that something might happen in here on the bounce. Yeah, 22,000 of the 18.5s traded, and then 10,000 of the 19s. So, and they're up money already on the 19s, or the 19 calls are already trading $1. So somehow I think somebody got some news, and they jumped on it, and so far they are correct. So it helps to ride whatever news you know is going to hit. That's all I'm going to say on that one.
Does help. But you know what always helps as well? It's a little Monday session of the strategy block. So let's get to it.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for The Strategy Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Strategy Block, the portion of the show where we talk a whole bunch of strategy with our good buddy Uncle Mike, who's still surly, even though he won today on the Trivia Channel. I'm not sure what it's going to take, maybe because his beloved market is hanging out in the red out there. That makes him always surly as well. But Bitcoin's down. That should make him happy. So, Mr. Uncle Mike, what will it take to cheer you up today, sir?
I don't know. I just have to, I got to get out of my own way and just really try and finish strong this last month. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. So we'll see what we got here. And if I lose, then I get the number 1 draft pick for next year, I think. Or there's got to be some type of benefit to losing, I would think. But we'll see. Anyway, on a serious note, I want to talk today about time frame selection for your hedge. So let's examine 2 ways with which you can hedge either an index or an underlying stock. The first way, and there's infinite amount of ways with which you can hedge, but let's say, for example, that I want to choose between a 1-year hedge put option and a 1-month put option, and continually buying the put month in, month out every month. So with that being said, if God were to tell me that the stock is going to crash in the first month, then of course I'm better off buying the 1-month put option. But God does not tell me when stocks are going to crash. So with that, one thing to consider is I don't want to plan on being right in that 1 month having it crash, because let's be honest, if I'm trying to be that predictive of the stock itself, I'll just buy the put and not even buy the stock. So the advantage of buying a 1-year put option is that you have 1 year of time to protect yourself. Now, of course, you're going to be paying more money for that, but you're going to get more time. What's the disadvantage? Well, there's a couple of them. First one would be, let's say in month 3, 1, 2, or 3, the stock crashes. One of the things with which you could do is you could sell the put for a profit at that point and perhaps buy more shares, or sell the put for a profit, and that would finance the cost of protection for the rest of the year. So there's advantages and disadvantages. If there's not going to be any crash, then you're going to be better off, or there's not going to be any downturn, you're going to be better off going with 1 year. Because with nonlinear time decay differential, a 12-month option is going to cost less than 12 1-month options. So it just kind of depends on what you are looking to do. I've done and have done and will always do both. But ultimately, if I want to be more passive, I'm going to go with 1 year. But if I want to be more active and think, okay, at some point during the year, we're going to get a crash and I'm going to be able to take advantage of it, I'll usually go with 1 month. I personally don't think there's any inherent advantage or disadvantage to either of them. There are just differences, so to speak. Now, when I say advantage or disadvantage, meaning it's just 2 different ways to hedge your stock or your portfolio in one way, shape, or form. Understand the advantages and disadvantages of each of them before making any of these trades, and you'll be able to make a good decision on it. And that's my strategy block. First one of December 2025.
Nothing is sexier than nonlinear time decay. But you know what? Maybe as a close second, it's around the block. So let's get there right now.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block, the portion of the show where we talk about what's going on in the market, what we're keeping an eye on throughout the rest of this week. And you know, as we're coming into the end of the show, we are seeing the sell-off mitigate somewhat, but not much. We were off, 0.15% to start the show. We're off about 0.1% right now on the S&P. The NASDAQ close to unch, the Dow off about 1/3%. VIX cash hanging out 1665, so down about 0.1 from where we started the show. So still hanging out pretty much in that zone. Speaking of you folks out there, you folks couldn't make up your mind last week on cranberry sauce. Is it just a topping or a tasty side dish? Ended up pretty much 50-50. So I guess we'll never know whether cranberry sauce is a side dish or a tasty topping. Our hot questions of the week this week. First off, Let's dive into that VIX one a little bit more now. It's been alive for a few more minutes. And 57.1% of you want to buy those March 85s for 38 cents. 28.6% want to sell them. And this is what I expected more. A seller as part of a vertical starting to creep in there, 14.3%. So you buy something else lower and then you sell those. That makes a little more sense to me than doing anything naked on that strike. But I digress. Maybe you're in the Matt Amberson garbage VIX call camp out there. Also, our actual question of the week right now has to do with those hot, spicy prediction markets. You saw Robinhood making some moves in that market last week, picking up MIAX, so I should say a MIAX subsidiary out there. So Robinhood owning an exchange now, which would have been wild to say just a few years ago, but that's where we are, listeners. A lot of the hot action driving this, of course, is the prediction markets. So we said, hey, coming off the heels of FIA, where they were all the rage, a lot of debate about what is a trade, what is a actual bet. We said we put it out to you. Should binaries be listed on everything like your sports and your Oscars, or should they really just be located on the financial products side of the space? So your SPX, your CPIs, that kind of thing. And right now, once again, our audience is all over the place. 33% saying they want binaries on everything, 33% saying trading products only, and 33% coming in with the just makes me nervous, which I can understand that, sir. Certainly. One of our pro members, Age of Del Aquarius, chimed in. He says, if they have to exist, put have in all caps, if they have to exist, which I'm not sure they need to, it should only be for financial instruments. So maybe you share that view. Maybe you disagree. Either way, Ad Options is the place to make your voice heard. And Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, we shall go to you. What are you keeping an eye on for the rest of the week? And then where should folks go if they want to play along in the great option pit Cyber Monday giveaway palooza? I think you get all of the flashing of the Rock Lobster for free.
Yeah. I wish, but everything, there's a huge list of products for $1,000, and some of those are anywhere between 40 and 70% off from the regular. This will be the cheapest price of the year on these. So you can check those out at optionpit.com, and we're live all day until 4:00 today. So you can learn all about that, everything at optionpit.com.
There you go. Check it out. Be there or be squared. Uncle Mike, same question for you, sir. What are you keeping an eye on until the Thursday show with the Flow Master? And then B, where should folks go if they want more Uncle Mike goodness in their lives?
Well, definitely keeping an eye on the precious metals. That's something that is a lot of entertainment, to say the least. Continuing to watch that, continuing to see if buyers continue to come in whenever we sell off. So just watching the markets, watching social media, and if you are looking to find a financial advisor who is not afraid of the option product, is not afraid to say the word taxes, feel free to reach out to me, stcharleswealth.com. Would always have to make an appointment with me. I'm always happy to talk with any of our listeners.
I'm terrified to say taxes. That's why we don't talk about them here on the show. But Uncle Mike's not. Check him out, stcharleswealth.com. That's going to do it for us on the option block. Not going to do it for the network, obviously. Back again at its usual appointed time, the Crypto Rundown. I will be joined by our buddy, Mr. Greg Magadini from Amber Data, to go deep into all this madness. There's some juice, there's some spice, there's some vol out there in the crypto market. So if you want to learn how to trade it, check out the Crypto Rundown. Then we'll be back after the closing bell to wrap up all your day's worth of action on a little bit of the old hot options report before we're back again tomorrow for some all sorts of fun pro action. TheOptionsInsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn all about that. Until we're back again throughout the rest of the week, until we're back on Thursday, Flowmaster in hand, another episode of the Option Block. Stay safe out there, everybody.
Old trading walks into a bar. New trading raises it. That's Tasty Trade. Keep focused with news feeds that matter. See opportunity differently in analysis mode. Chart your heart out with over 300 indicators. Plus, you can get low pricing, lots of education, and a support team that really gets how traders trade. It's no wonder Investopedia named Tasty Trade the best broker for options in 2024. Genius loves company. Go to tastytrade.com/podcasts and see for yourself. Tasty Trade Incorporated is a registered broker-dealer and member of FINRA, NFA, and SIPC. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.